give it to the guy, but then if he shows that he's starting to lack, he's not doing anything, and then you stop dating him, and then you go do it to the next guy, the same thing happens, and then you do it to another guy, the same thing happens.
That's you.
You gotta have some self-reflection.
That's you.
No, actually, that's not me because I don't do that.
No, I mean, an example that you're given, because the common denominator in each one of those situations is that woman.
Women want what they want. They be all talk, and they want it just as bad as we do. But they just, again, they just gotta up their standard in terms of who they give it to consistently. Because this is another thing, right? Now, don't get me wrong. Now, there are certain one-offs sometimes that just gotta happen, right? The moment calls for it, and you may just fall for that situation, and it may be a dope experience. You may learn a lot from it, whatever. But you and them both know, hey, man, this shit ain't going nowhere. You know what I'm saying? But y'all got that understanding of it. But like I said earlier, man, it's all about consistency, man. Do not give a man consistent benefits when he's showing you inconsistency as far as effort. If women could learn how to do that, they'll be a lot better off, bro. But until they do, you know what I'm saying? Because women are under the assumption that I can great woman this man into committing to me, or I can amazing sex this man into committing to me. And that's going to leave your ass with kids out of wedlock, going back to the topic that Shannon's talking about, right? Because you're going to keep having sex with them. And eventually it may start off with condoms. It may start off pulling out. But, after that 30th time, 36th time, y'all got a little bit of that tequila and you got a little bit of that Henny in you.
The tequila does do it.
You know what I mean? It's happening. That's all I'm saying. So, it's all about the consistency, bro. Like, stop giving niggas consistent benefits that ain't giving you consistent effort. That's just what it's going
out. So I have a question, Trill. Y'all hate my questions, but I've got a question. So I understand what you're saying, but does that not increase your body count? Because if you're saying give it to the guy, but then if he shows that he's starting to lack, he's not doing anything, and then you stop dating him, and then you go do it to the next guy, the same thing happens, and then you do it to another guy, the same thing happens.
That's you.
You gotta have some self-reflection.
That's you.
No, actually, that's not me because I don't do that.
No, I mean, an example that you're given, because the common denominator in each one of those situations is that woman.
Yeah. So my question is. So I'm the reason why I state this because I'm looking at the stats in the low marriage rate. So it's more than just a you; it's a lot of yous.
Correct. That's what he's saying. That's exactly what he's saying. Yeah, there's too many women giving benefits without having standards. So of course the rate your women are not making marriage a standard for them anymore. They're just not. Because if you did, then there would be more marriages. But what they are doing is saying, I'm willing to take something that's kind of like marriage. And so that's what they're getting. That's what they're getting. So the standards have to change for women, period. I do think in that regard, that's where women have more of the power when we're talking about power.
I think women have more power before sex than after the sex.
But the thing is,
unless he's the one.
If you keep finding yourself in that same situation and you got the nerve to be worried about body count, you should be having some self-reflection.
But I would argue that most women, if you are for, and I'm including myself, but I do the opposite. If you're a certain age and you're still not married, then you're the person you're talking about. But
this is my thing. Even if you find yourself 25 in that position, where's the self-reflection? The self-reflection needs to happen no matter what age it is. Yes, it looks worse on an older woman, absolutely. But it looks just as bad on that 25-year-old that keeps going from person to person. And you wondering like, oh, it's them that they keep doing this to me. No, sweetheart, it's you. Look in the mirror. It's you.
Okay, I don't think you guys are understanding where I'm coming from.
Maybe
I feel like
we definitely understand where you're coming from.
Maybe I'm not saying it right. Listen to what I'm saying. I'll use myself. Even though I'm the opposite. I just don't give it. I don't give my cooch out freely. Okay. It's kind of, but on the opposite end, I'm not the norm. I'm not the norm. And when I see women, okay. So what I'm saying to you is if you are 45 or 46 and you've been giving your cooch out to every man you think you want to date and you're still not married, the cooch is not working.
And that's not working at 25 either.
Well, I'm not saying that. I get that. But what I'm saying to you is I would assume that at 40 something, you would have had more male mates than a 25-year-old. Not to say all the time, because these 25-year-olds. But you've had more time to try to get it right.
But like, are you using that time to actively try to get it right? And I feel like that's what the issue is, right? Just going back to what Tam said, if you keep running into the, and again, we're not talking about, we're talking about just in general, right? And I would tie it to, let's use an analogy, right? Like if I constantly leave cabinets open in my kitchen, I go in there and I hit my head every day. I go in there, cabinet, damn, I forgot to leave the cabinet. Bam, hit my head again while I'm coming out the refrigerator. I'm taking something out the, damn. If I'm still hitting my head 5 years later on the same cabinet, it's not the cabinet's fault. It's me. I need to make changes to what it is that I'm doing. So it's the intuition that needs to change. So if you are constantly running into men and you cannot decipher how serious this man is going to take you at 40 something years old or at 30 something years old with all of these different men, that's a you problem. It's not an them problem.
Fact.
Okay.
Also, it's a cultural thing.
I don't think you guys are understanding.
Hold on, Lauren, go ahead.
I was gonna say also it's like a, to your point, Shantae, to your original question, it's the reason why single parent homes and low marriage rates and high divorce rates are a thing is because it's just culture. Like that's literally our culture. And so because we're in this Peachtree dish and we're experiencing all of these things, it's not abnormal to see a woman have X amount of kids and she's doing it by herself. It's not abnormal. So how do we find a solution to that problem? We have to first ask the question, like, what value with these people that are not that are not getting married, but they're having children out of wedlock? What value do you see in marriage? Do you see value in marriage? And most times they don't. Most times either they don't see value in marriage because they don't have those examples, or because they had those examples, but they're looking at it from a way of like, I want a baby, but I don't want to deal with you for the rest of my life. Not in that capacity where we're next to each other, we're doing this. Because if you don't see the value in marriage, you're not going to look to this person that could actually help elevate you, because you're both going to elevate each other. But if you don't see the value in it, you look at it like, oh, I can get this, this, and this, and that's that. And when I mentioned before about how women have conditional love to men, the number one condition that women have towards men, it's not the money stuff, it's not the provision stuff, it's the ability for him to give her a baby. Because once she has a baby, she's cool. Like she focuses on that baby, the husband or the boyfriend or whatever, he's over there. He could be a good guy, and I'm not blaming women. I'm just simply saying that we won't be able to change this dynamic because it's just culture. We're not, like Trill said, we're not frowning upon people having babies out of wedlock. We're not pulling people to the side and saying, hey, what are you doing? This is not how we do this. We don't have that type of conversation. Not to mention, even with men, we don't even have a rites of passage for the men in our communities. So a lot of them are not even looking at the woman and saying, if I get with this woman, I'm gonna hold my responsibility down. Half the time, it's just like, this is just something for me to do because I'm bored. And I know that sounds really bad, but that's kind of the mentality. I'm going to just go lay up with this person. Whatever happens, happens. On some instances, maybe Planned Parenthood is on speed dial. On other instances, let's just get it. Let's just do this and let's figure out how we want to go from here. Because really, at the end of the day, you know what? I want to say this as a contradiction to what I just said. I don't feel like women go into these relationships or these dynamics with these men and don't consider the fact that they can have babies. I don't think they go into it and think like, oh yeah, I won't get pregnant. I think we as women were fully aware that will happen. I think we don't really care until it does happen. And we're hoping that we're looking at the guy like, okay, we did this. Are you going to stay? And like Troy was saying, the man is not going to stay. He wasn't there for that purpose. He wasn't picking you up for the purpose of you being his everything. He was just there for whatever he could get from you. And, and unfortunately, that's how it is. But back to the original question, what is the solution? So So marriage is made of single people, right? And the single people are men and women. But beyond all of that, we go back to the community. We have marriages. Marriages have families, and in those families, those break into communities and nations and things of that nature. You want to fix what's happening, the wedlock pandemic or whatever it is. I don't think being abstinent will fix it, because people are going to find a way to do what they got to do.
Well, let me ask you a question. Remember, because okay, go ahead. I want you to finish because I want you to lose
your
your.
Yeah. So just wrapping that up is more or less we have to set a community and a culture where there's a standard. We don't have a standard, so now it's a free for all. You can do whatever you want to do, and because you're doing whatever you want to do, nobody's checking you on it. So now everyone's looking like, well, shoot, I can do that too. We're not seeing the repercussions of it, the problems of it. Half the time, people are just like, well, it is what it is. You know, we're looking at our bodies like, well, because I'm able and willing, I'm gonna just do it. But that's having a baby is not a matter of ability, not in the sense of if you can have a baby, because that does play a role in it. But having a child is also being mindful of. I don't have children, but from my opinion, I perceive this. Having a child is more about how well can you be as an individual to that child? How well can you cultivate that child to become a mature, upstanding, high moral character individual? And we're not having those conversations. Why? No shade, but because we're stuck at the dating phase. We're at the table. How much money do you make? That tells me nothing about how good of a father you can be. And we're not asking these questions. This man can say whatever he wants. Oh, I make 80K, whatever. I drive a nice car, this, and the fourth. The woman is like, that's my standard? Okay, cool, let's do this. We don't have good standards in place to be able to say we need to stop doing this and doing that, because we just allow whatever. It's a free-for-all. Go ahead.
To take it even further, we don't even have good enough reasoning to bring the kids into the world. And this is not to bash women, again, but at the end of the day, I've literally heard women say, or they'll be dealing with a man who ain't shit. Again, the same inconsistent man I was talking about earlier. And now that she done got pregnant, and it's like, well, nah, I'm gonna have a baby because, the doctor told me that I wasn't gonna be able to have no kids. Or, this is, I don't believe in getting rid of it. Or I don't believe in, well, cool. If you didn't believe in that, why wasn't you taking the precautions prior to make sure that doesn't happen? But you wasn't. You was wide open, legs spread wide open. You seen folks ain't even reach for no condom. You didn't even ask either. You just let it rock. You know what I'm saying? And then after the situation, it's like, oh, okay, well, I don't believe, so I'm gonna keep the baby. Blah, blah, blah. So again, the reasoning to even have the baby is flawed. So what does that mean? That means that that this man is not gonna be there, but you want to have a kid for your own selfish reasons. And now you bringing the kid into this world in a broken home. And, he has to face the consequences of that. The stats say what they say. You know what I'm saying? 80% chance, higher chance of going to prison. All of these crazy stats that follow, kids that are brought into the world in broken homes. So just, to piggyback on what Lauren said, the reasoning to even have the kid, which is what she was talking about, purpose and, what can I bring to this kid? Can I guide him right? Can I get him in the right? Those thoughts are not even there. I want to have a kid because I just don't believe in abortion. Like, damn whether the dad gonna be in my life. I just don't believe in that, or whatever selfish reasons. Doc told me I couldn't have a kid, or I didn't know I was gonna be able to have kids. I always had trouble. So now that I'm pregnant, I got the opportunity. I'm just gonna have a baby. I don't care. And then we're gonna figure it out on the back end. And I'm gonna villainize him for not wanting to be in a kid's life. It's just like you knew he wasn't there for that. If we're gonna be real with ourselves, but we're not real with ourselves enough.
So I like how we say stigmatized. So there, when I was growing, the same people who put stigma on having kids out of wedlock, it used to be a stigma on being loose, just out there spreading your legs to everybody. So let's not take, I know the chat is getting on me because of the sex, but that used to be a stigma as well. So you can't just be sitting here pointing at one and not pointing at the other. I think that there needs to be standards in both areas. You should not be, because you just said it several times, people are out here getting played. You can't open your legs to a man who knows how to hustle the system. He knows you want to hear somebody who's vetting you or asking the right questions, and he just asked the right questions just to get in your pants. You lost.